Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm MXR. I'm an electronic music artist, DJ, and producer. And on this channel, I break down how music works. Not just technically, but emotionally. Why certain sounds make you feel something. Why certain moments hit harder than others. And how all of that comes together in a track. This is my song, Talk About You. Today, I'm going to break down every important decision that went into making it. Not just from a production perspective, but from an emotional one. Why does this section feel the way it does? Why did I choose these sounds? Why does the arrangement change here? Let's open the project and go through it. So, if you listen to the song, you know that there's a main melody. This main melody is played by a piano. Let's listen to what it sounds like on its own. Now, that is just the main leading melody of the sound, which is led by the piano. Now, what that does is that it creates a very simple setting for the tone of the song, right? We know that the song is an A minor song. For those who don't know, A minor, just an interesting little thing, would be the scale of playing all the white keys on the keyboard and none of the black keys. That's just an interesting fact. So one of the easiest scales to learn would be the A minor scale. However, getting back to Talk About You, this song is mainly a song that's more about melancholic love, where somebody feels like they are with somebody who is very self-absorbed, doesn't really care about their own feelings, but cares about themselves, right? So the feeling had to lead the song, and this is done by the notes of the piano with the vocals, right? So if you listen to the vocals in context with the piano, you start to gather the feeling, because this is where the song actually began, with the notes being figured out towards the lyrics of the song, you know?
You always listen when they said alright, alright. Not to me, not to me, not to me. You deny being selfish, that's a lie, that's a lie. I'm still here, I'm here, I'm still here. You're talking about you, yourself.
However, there is also a bit of, like sound design that would happen to actually lead the feeling a bit more. If you were to notice that with just the piano and just the lyrics, that didn't give it all of the feeling of the song. There is also a bit of a backing pad, and this pad is what also gives it more of a texture. Let's first listen to the pad and we'll tell you what it's doing. This is the pad and what it sounds like on its own. So if you realize that the pad, it's got a bit of more of an airy feeling to it. And what that just does is that it opens up the song, gives it a whole lot more space so that it feels like, this person who is in this love, they feel like they're in this big space and they feel all alone because there is nothing in there. There's no room for anything but this person. They feel like they're all alone. So space is a great way to make somebody feel that feeling through, the sound of the song, as well as, to make it feel a little bit more on the colder side, just to match the melancholy of what the song is actually speaking about. I mean, the main melody on its own just gives it a bit of a sweet texture, but if you give it a bit of the pad, it just opens up the texture. Let's just listen to like what the keys and the pad with the vocals actually sound like.
You always listen when they said alright, alright. Not to me, not to me, not to me. You deny being
So, of course, melody isn't just everything that's to a track. There has to be a rhythm section. Specifically with this track, we wanted it to be more melody led, more than it is going to be led by the rhythm and the drums and the patterns and all of, the little bobbing and babbing sounds that would normally lead other tracks. But this is what it would sound like with just the percussion of the song. Let's listen to it. And basically, what the percussion here is doing is that it's giving it a bit of like, a backbone, a rhythm, timing for it to go with, you know? And also, this is actually the perfect time to also speak about the tempo of the track, where the tempo is 115, which is not as fast as traditional other house tracks or on the EDM side, where it would go as high as 128, but it's actually not even as slow as an Amapiano song or something as slower like an Afrobeat song. It's somewhere in the middle where we'd actually put it around the same tempo as what modern day deep house feels like. So it gives this track like a little bit of a slower feel with just enough urgency for it to have a bit more rhythm to carry it along. However, the rhythm section is not meant to take more of the shine here. It's more melody led, and actually, the vocals as well are the ones that actually give it more of the direction of the song more than it does with the melody. And that's why the melody even sounds a little bit constant and not too varying in its sound. Now, if you notice something as well, there are a couple of guitars, and these guitars are just, to give it a different feel to the song. Because if we just had the melody, the rhythm, and the vocals just going as it goes, we definitely run into a part where it starts to feel a little bit monotonous. And this is what the first guitar sounds like were played on its own and then were played in context with the main keys. Let's play it with the keys. Right after that guitar, but the purpose of that guitar also is just to intro the track, give it a little bit of a feel, as we're about to enter the verse and the chorus, you know, and the guitar, I think, just sets out the tone of what the track is about so beautifully. The melody of what it's playing is not rushed, it's also very sparse, adding to the feeling of the track. If you feel anything where some of the notes are spaced out, where this person would feel there's a dissonance between them and their partner. So the guitar sounds being sparsely played actually gives the feeling to the track. And right after that, there's a little sound that I like to call a bit of a motif. And what it basically does is more, it's like it's a rhythmic thing, but it also gives the track a bit of a tonal center for it to play around. We know that the track is in A minor, but it's nice to have a tonal center, and it just lets everything dance around that middle center of the track. Also, it's a very nice variation to the track, but also it's not meant to lead the track, which is why you would hear it playing a little bit softer, because it's not meant to take over. It's just something that's supposed to be there in the background, more suggestive, more than anything. There is also some guitars that also play as we enter into the chorus. This is what the guitar sounds like on its own. Well, more like it's like a mixture of the sound, so more of like a guitarish, like synth pluck pad type of vibe. but there is also another that plays in the chorus, right? And what this guitar does is that it gives the whole song a counter melody, because if you've been listening from the beginning, a lot of these songs are borrowing melodies from one another, right? And if they all playing the same thing, it would start to also feel a bit monotonous. But once we get into the chorus, it breaks it up nicely by introducing a counter melody. And a counter melody simply is like a different melody but played in the same key. However, it contrasts the original melody. And if you play it on top of it, it also plays nicely. But also in the chorus, we do have a piano that just breaks up it even further, gives it another texture. And the purpose of this, it plays the same keys as the original piano, but the purpose of this is just so that people can know from a sonic perspective that we are now in a different part of the song. I mean, the lyrics do it as well, but it also helps to just lift the track up a bit, not in terms of volume, but more in terms of texture and tone. So let's play it with it just in solo. You may notice that it is a little bit low because it's not meant to take over the shine, but here's what it sounds like on its own. So I played as in context as well with the main piano. But what I'd like to do is just to start it, a little bit before it goes into the chorus. We're also going to add a little bit of the vocals as well so that you can hear it as it moves across. And the reason why it also sounds so very sparse is because we didn't want it to take over some of the frequencies or the space rather that the track has for the vocal, because once it starts to do that, things will become muffled. And this track is not about that. It's more about space, the dissonance between sounds to create the feeling of what the track is actually all about. So let's hear it in context as it moves with just the main piano and added with the chorus piano going from verse into chorus.
You're talking about you, yourself. Yeah, we went from saying love you to not even saying goodnight. From making love to always ending in a fight. You never care how I feel, how I look now. It's a fire to my heart, 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 to my.
So also one thing that you'll notice is that it just gives it this whole full texture, but there's also so much space to be played around, and that's where all the other elements fit in as well, right? But that's not just all. Of course, we know that we're leaving the bass line for last, but there is a backing sound as well, which is more like a vocal chop. I'll play it alone in context at first, and it may sound a little bit messy, but we'll explain what its purpose is. Sounds a little bit messy, but all it does is it also helps to keep the tonal center of the track, because some of those motif sounds it don't play throughout. So what this does is that in those parts, it gives it that tonal center so that we know that all the vocals can sing and sway within the other keys, but there is this tonal center that's being set by that vocal chop, right? It's not meant to be distinguishable, but it's also not meant to also shine in the track. That's why it's playing in the background. But what we will do is we'll play it in context with the keys as well as the vocals with it, just to show you what feeling it sort of adds to it.
You're talking about you, yourself. You're talking about you, yourself. Yeah.
So if you notice, it sounds a little bit more rhythmic as well, you know. It's just to also give it a bit of a different texture as well. And this just also adds to the variation of the song so that it doesn't feel a little bit monotonous as well, you know. Another trick to actually make things not to feel monotonous and to make it feel like it's going on a journey and telling the story is actually like, you know, letting sounds filter in and filter out as we have with this little pluck sound. If you realize very softly, I'll play it right now. It's building, and I'll give it a bit of context as well. I'll play it with the main piano so you can hear what it sounds like. So, of course, you know, you can hear that it's coming in very slowly. But what it's doing is it's also adding just that feeling of we're on a journey here. You understand? Like it keeps you engaged as it's traveling because it's also like a sound that feels like it's coming from behind. And as it keeps coming, it's coming more closer and closer. That also adds to the sonic texture of making a track feel like it's actually spaced out. So more than anything, it's actually got such a beautiful purpose, even though it doesn't sound like it plays a significant role in that. There is a bass line, of course. It wouldn't be a song without the bass line, but just to also caveat here is that the bass line was also not also meant to take over the track. It was also not meant to be the star of this track. So all it does is it plays a nice supporting role by giving a nice low end feel. And what it does is that just adds to the warmth of the track, you know, fills it out so nicely in the space so that, you know, fills up the space with just enough warmth to carry you throughout the track. And this is what the bass line sounds like. I'll play it alone first, then play it in context with the main piano. Now with the piano, this is what it sounds like. So there is, you know, we do have rises in the track, you know, crashes and rises, and that's simply the purpose of just, you know, sectioning out the song, you know, just to also lead you and tell you as it's creating the tension and release of a song, you know, to say that, you know, this section is ending and we're going into another section. So the rise and fall basically of what a song is meant to do. But there is one specific one that was added over here, right? Which is just unique throughout the whole song and also has gives it a bit of texture because it brings in the bass line or played in context with just the rising sound so that you hear what it sits as it rises ever so gently into introducing the bass line. And it only happens once in this track. And sometimes, you know, once is enough of a variation, you know. And I felt like it complements or rather introduces the warmth of the bass line very nicely and complements the other elements of the track. So, beautiful way to tie it into everything. Without any of the piano so that we can hear the sound and what it's doing. And yeah, that's just about it, you know, breaking down the talking about you, you know. At the end of the day, I'd like to thank you for actually coming in and tuning and listening if you've made it this far in the video, you know. I just want to say music is a series of decisions. Every sound, every silence, every transition is trying to make you feel something. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe because this channel is all about understanding why music affects us the way it does. Also give this video a little bit of a thumbs up to show that you liked it. It helps us a lot. And please comment down below letting us know what you enjoyed about the song or what the song actually makes you feel like. I'm going to play the song one more time. We're going to go from the verse and straight into the chorus, and the minute we get into this bridge, you know it's about to end. But if you want to listen to more of the song, go ahead and stream it. Find the link in the description below. Thank you. Signing out. MXR.